Hi, friends. Quick surprise. After a year of hosting this beautiful podcast, I have decided to hand back the reins so I can fully focus on building my agent business from the ground up in the new city that I live in, Lexington, Kentucky. So this August 2024 is my last month hosting. So if you want to follow the journey from ground zero, head over to Instagram at The Shelby Show. But for today, we have Brian North with us. He is out of Phoenix, Arizona. He's an old school gangster real estate agent in the luxury space. He's also the broker owner of North & Co. And here is what to expect to learn in today's show. How to truly market your listings, not just upload pictures in the MLS and wait. How to farm a neighborhood through open house events. How to layer marketing strategies so people see you everywhere, plus much more. You are listening to the Real Estate Rockstars podcast, the show for agents who've been around the block and are ready to build sustainable, scalable businesses. My name is Shelby Johnson. I'm an Army veteran turned real estate entrepreneur turned podcast host. And yeah, as you know, rebuilding my business from the ground up in Lexington, Kentucky. But for today, Rockstars, welcome Brian North. Okay, Brian, hypothetically, I'm a newer agent. I'm listening to the show and I really want more listings in my life because who doesn't, right? But what I don't understand is the marketing for listings because I thought that I just take some pictures and I put them in the MLS and that's marketing. Please, can you set me straight on what makes good marketing for a listing?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question. I love marketing. Obviously, everything from I'll never forget being a new agent, right? Ever, 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 because of the emotion that's involved in being a new agent, the excitement and the despair all mesh together, right? But marketing for me is something I've fallen completely in love with. And it's critically important right now because, that's probably one of the top two questions that I think that your sellers are going to ask when you're on a listing appointment is how much are you going to charge me and what's your marketing? Those are typically the first two. So with regard to marketing, yes, you did actually say photos, all you need to do? Absolutely not. Highly exceptional photos, like really how critically important is photography? It might be the most important. And that's because we're spending the majority of our time as consumer online. And we're going on our iPad, we're going on our computer, and we're going on our phone. And right now, if you think about the way that we operate on social media, our attention span is very, very short. And so we're going like this. This is how our consumers are shopping for homes. And if we don't have something that's eye-catching in some form or fashion, then you're in trouble to start. Couple things just to share with you how intentional I am about this type of consumer behavior. If you go look at my Zillow profile, what's Zillow? We don't know what that is. But if you happened to go on Zillow and look at my profile, it's a picture of the back of my head. Okay, so for everybody that has a picture of their face, if you're going like this and you're looking for a profile, you're certainly going to stop on the guy that it's a picture of the back of his head. So, it's really how different can you be in delivering that marketing message. The next thing from there is, how do you think in your respective market that your demographic is shopping for homes? I'm going to speak to my market right now, which may not be for the newer agent in most cases, but I think it'll help everybody understand. For me, I work in the luxury market, and I would call probably what I would refer as the hyper luxury market here in Arizona. Luxury market probably starts at $1.5 million here in Greater Maricopa County, but my average price point is $2.5 million and up. Highest price listing I've had recently is 11 million. I've one coming that's at 12.5 million. So now we got to think about who is that target market, right? That target market right now in Arizona is not in Arizona, right? It's 110 degrees average, right? Every day is. And if you are affluent and you have the means to not be here, you don't want to hang out when it's 110 degree heat. So you are somewhere else shopping for properties, on the beach, on the lake, in the mountains, on your mobile device. And so for us, what we do is we start to think about how can we market a property to someone who's not here so that they can get excited about it for when they return. And if we do a really good job, then they're going to come and visit us. So basically what we do is the way that I label this is instead of coming to the home to investigate, how can I market so that when they get to the home, they're simply there for verification? very different, right? It's like, hey, here's some photos, here's some general information. This one looks good. Let's schedule a tour in Arizona, tour the home and see if we actually like it. If you're marketing online to somebody where they're going to come to verify, what you would do is you would have a very thorough seller property disclosure statement, right? That would label all the age of the mechanical. You might have what we call generically a supplement, and that would have, the cabinet manufacturer, the kind of stone for the countertops, the brand of the plumbing fixtures, the appliances, the size of appliances. Then from there, you're going to have a floor plan. And this isn't just like a line drawing. What's really important about a floor plan for sake of verification are the dimensions of the rooms, right? So you want to have the actual size and dimensions of rooms because, this particular clientele is going to say, hey, we're used to having this style of furniture, or we actually have pieces of furniture we can bring, or we have artwork that we want to bring into the home that we're going to hang on certain walls. So to understand the length and height of the ceilings and walls so we can start placing furniture gives us the opportunity to get emotionally attached to the home. We could say, hey, that one favorite piece of art we have from our Montana home, we want to bring to our Arizona home, and it's actually going to fit on the wall in the living room, which is where we spend most of our time entertaining. Those kinds of things really matter in this type of marketing. And I could go on video, obviously, is a big one. Drone video, being able to show the area, giving, access to information in the area, whether it be shopping, and not just saying close to shopping and freeways. Let's talk about things like my target market would be 5 minutes from the private air park, right? We'd want to get really specific. We'd want to say 10 to 12 minutes from 2 couture shopping experiences, right? And we know that would either be the mall or that would be Kierland, and this would be centrally located to those. When we talk about outdoor activities, it might be specific types of hikes, or it might be to get a spiritual experience in Sedona. So really invoking emotion in your marketing for the people that you really can prove that you understand their lifestyle, so that when you bring the marketing to them, they say, this is my home, not I'm going there to check it out.
Dude, that is so good. All of that information. I'm going to dig in deeper to a bunch of them, starting with photography. I'm curious with that, like, how involved are you? Like, first of all, I'm sure you have like the, top tier photographer themselves, but like, do you go and like make sure that they get the specific shots, and like, is it at dusk? I don't know. Do you have any guidance for specifically with photos?
I might surprise you. After I just went through this big detailed rant about all that stuff, my answer is no, I don't. Actually, unless my client is like, a very discerning client, and I feel like they're going to want to coach the photographer, which I actually coach them to not coach the photographer. Like, look, I've hired the best of breed, right? I mean, for you, no matter what, if you're doing $100,000 one-bedroom condos, or you're doing $12 million houses, hire the best photographer you can afford for that type of property. And if you do that, like you're a professional, Mr. Miss Real Estate Professional, or your seller is a professional in their field, let the photographer be a professional. Let their artwork sing. If there's some very particular thing that the seller has built into the home that's a unique feature, a 500 bottle wine cellar that you walk down into a basement, or, it's got let's call it a 3-flat, kind of townhome that has a rooftop viewing deck, and you want to make sure to highlight those things. But most of these real estate photographers, they've seen everything, and their job is to really highlight the home. The more you get it sold based on things like great photography, the more you're going to use them, and they want repeat referral business. So for me, what I've really worked to do, and I've done this at scale in the macro part of the business, being a brokerage owner, is hire people better than you. I used to take my pictures on my iPhone and then edit them. And I felt like I did a hell of a job. I did. When I couldn't afford it, I did a really good job. But once I found a good photographer, and then a better photographer, and then the best photographer, get out of their way and let them be great at what they're good at. If you have an assistant, let your assistant be great at what they're good at. If you have a transaction manager, let them be great at what they're good at, and you go be a great prospector or real estate professional. But in this case, I really am not there to have like micromanagey, move the couch over here and the chair over there. I think that's more all for show. I don't think it makes that big of a difference.
Okay, gotcha. So I will not deep dive into all of these then. So what I'm hearing is hire the best of the best, and you're doing photos, you are doing drone footage, you're doing the supplements, all of the information gathering upfront for anything that target audience might possibly need, want. You're also doing the floor plan with the dimensions. Is there anything that I missed in that? And where are you putting this information? Are you putting it on the MLS, or is there do you do a website, like a property website per listing, or what's your process?
Yes, all of it. So MLS, single property websites, we are definitely marketing. We're utilizing, knowing that the MLS syndicates to Realtor.com and Zillow and all the other IDX websites. We're making sure to upload it with it in mind that through the syndication, they're going to be able to access these documents and these highlights as well. Some of them we'll put in photo form in the images, the actual still images and the photos. Others will either be a combination of in the still images and in the documents tab. We wouldn't put a seller property disclosure statement in the still images, but that would go in the docs tab. We might put a floor plan in the images and a floor plan in the docs tab. So definitely single property website as well. And then there was one other thing that you missed would be when you go on a listing appointment and you find things that are the appraiser term functionally obsolete, right? I'll share with you, I had a beautiful luxury listing recently whereby the seller kind of got stuck on how they were going to finish the flooring. And they did what most would consider like an epoxied floor in a garage in a $5.5 million house, right? And I knew it was going to be a little bit of a challenge. And so what I did was I got a bid for wood flooring, like what would be the most common flooring that you would put in that house, what most people in that subdivision put in their house. So the other thing that I'll do, and I won't always list those, so I won't always put those in the marketing, but I'll kind of keep them in my tool belt on the side. And when people are like, oh gosh, the flooring's terrible, the seller and I'll be candid with them to say, hey, you may have to address the flooring situation here, but I'm going to have one of my subcontractors come out and give me an actual bid, because buyers almost always think things are 10 times more expensive than they really are. And so I've got that kind of ammunition there to say, hey, I've got a licensed contractor who could do wood flooring in here for you. And the seller's open to that being part of the negotiation process. So in addition to some of the marketing, it's our incumbent upon us as listing agents to try and identify some of what the most obvious challenges. This particular house also did not have a pool. And for this price point location in Arizona, really should have had a pool. So we bid out a basic pool for that as well and had the seller ready to say, hey, if we got a full price offer, we would do these as well. Here's the bids for repair and renderings for the pool. So we kind of mitigate some of those questions on the front end.
I think, I really like that because you're doing the legwork. You're anticipating the needs and the potential objections of a buyer, getting ahead of it and really doing the legwork to set your client up for success, which I know, there are a lot of sellers out there who think that agents don't do anything, that they really do think that they just take photos and throw them in the MLS and then sit and wait. So the legwork upfront, I love to hear it. Outside of that, now that you have all of this, you've done the legwork, you have the most beautiful, images, all of that stuff. How are you pushing it, or are you pushing it outside of the MLS and Zillow, all of those integrated websites to make sure that you're getting in front of the right target?
Yeah. This. I feel like I'm being interviewed right now. I love it. I mean, for a listing appointment, you know what I mean? It's really,
perfect.
And I'm going to share with you my candid responses. So there's the question I get often is, hey, Brian, how do you market to California buyers, right? Like, because here in Arizona, we have so much migration, California. Yes, we push heavily, but our push heavily is local, surprisingly, to some, right? Where it's a lot of local push, whether it's social media, home tours, broker opens, local newspapers and magazines for print, which I don't do a ton of print. Something that I read about a year ago, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, was what percent of ad spends for Fortune 500 companies are on print? And it was 4% of ad spends, which if Fortune 500 companies are only spending 4% of their ad dollars on print, doesn't that tell you that print is, maybe not the best place to spend your money? That's just me listening to the smart people out there in the world. So we don't do a ton on print, but we do the stuff we do on print is for us, right? Like we're marketing a trophy listing, and naturally we're going to look like we have a bunch of business. So we're going to get more stuff, and that's just candid, it is what it is. But we do a lot of push marketing to get foot traffic, open houses. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but we also do open houses, we think, very different than most. And so a lot of our push is for local marketing. And then we do rely heavily on IDX sites because, frankly, 90% of the consumer is going to go to their phone and they're going to go to Zillow, Realtor.com, and kind of the Redfins of the world, the top, best apps for home searches, and they're going to use that. And so then what we've done is everything I shared with you beforehand that we think separates us. Oh, a couple other little things I want for the newer agent is label your photos. I know it sounds really, really rudimentary, but here on our MLS, if you don't label your photos, it just has the JPEG number, JPEG 100457, and you can actually go in and label the photos, organize them in order of the home, so it shows the flow of the home versus just uploading your large file to your photos. And then the last one here on our MLS is not only do you have label of the photo for the dining room, living room, secondary, kids study, whatever it might be, but then there's a section where you can give kind of a title, a subcontext. And what we do in there is we use emotion invoking statements imagine enjoying a glass of wine at sunset here. Feel the hot tub in the winter, the cold pool in the summer, these kinds of things to invoke emotion. The poker room, it's can't you hear the laughter with your buddies and smoking cigars, kind of thing. Do this stuff. And not that it's the thing that's going to sell the home, but when you do go on future listing appointments, and I do think there's some value in it, it's going to separate you from the pack. Everyone's trying to figure out the next $5,000 spend or $500 spend or magic pill for getting a home sold or to win the listing on marketing. And really, it's the small things that I think separate us from the pack that show what makes me different in my listing presentation than everybody else. The majority of our marketing, to answer your question, is local push when we're pushing it out. And then the other is we do rely on IDX sites, because how are we going to know if that buyer's coming from Ohio or California, even though the strength in numbers might be California? So we don't spend a lot of dollars and time trying to figure out what that secret special market is that's going to find our buyer.
Okay, before I ask questions about how you market for your business, is there anything that we missed on the listing marketing, or did we nail it? Great information, by the way.
Most part, you nailed it. I mean, we could deep dive. I would say, as funny as it sounds, at a later, whenever it feels appropriate, the way that we do open houses, I mean, it's helped me not only build my brand as an agent and as a team, but it's helped me build the brand as a brokerage. And so, again, when the time is right, we talk about that.
The time is right. I would love to. Let's do it.
I love it. Let's see. Open houses. First, just go to open houses as an agent and take inventory. Just be critical of what your colleagues are doing out there. And you can pretty quickly formulate what you should be doing, right? The other thing I would recommend is go to high-end retail services. Go to clothing boutiques. Go to high-end jewelry stores. Go to high-end restaurants, high-end hotels. You don't have to spend any money, but just go and see who really separates their self from the pack in the way that they merchandise, the way they communicate, the way that they meet and greet you, the questions that they ask, how they make you feel special. What are the stories that they tell about their brand versus the other brand? Do they tell you a historical approach? Do they tell you an approach to their brand in the clothing space that might be that it's durable or longer lasting or a lifetime warranty? What are the things that make you feel holy cow, I don't even have any money right now, but I have to buy something here, right? And those are the things that you can carry into open houses. That's kind of the when someone gets there, what do you do with them, right, approach. Because remember that I saw this, Zillow actually had a stat about 4 years ago that said 7 out of 10 buyers find their home before they find an agent. Found that really interesting, right? Think about they don't want to call their agent and be can you meet me here, when they can go do a lot of research and then find an agent, right? So there's this thing where that tells me open houses, 70% of the people that come through my open house don't have an agent. And so I'm auditioning, right? And now if I can take that, high elevated, high touch, high value experience into an open house, I should be able to curate more clients. And a lot of those become listing appointments, right? They need to sell something. With that said, from a brand creation standpoint, the methodology came from when I started to, gain some market share. I started getting hit up by ad agencies to pay for advertising. Zillow was one of the first ones, the local newspaper, billboards, those sorts of things. And they were all selling me impressions. And I didn't know what impressions were. I didn't understand impression marketing at the time. And I remember Zillow called me and said, hey, you can buy a tranche of impressions on Zillow for $1,000 a month. And then I had a billboard call me and say, for this billboard in your target market, you can get 90,000 impressions for $1,500 a month. I went, oh, wait, this is starting to make sense, right? So I'm now valuing cost per impression. Okay, that was really what it was. And it's not as simple as you think. Zillow user is a much better impression than someone driving by in their car, right? Who may or may not be looking for a home. So you can dissect some of that. But I took that basic understanding of impression marketing and deployed it to open houses, which were, what is the most cost efficient approach to marketing based on impressions? And it's open houses from this perspective. Your open house signs are a one-time cost. So the more open houses you do, the value of the spend on those open house signs goes up, the ROI, right? The next thing is your yard sign. It's really a one-time cost, one-time install. Your flyers, they cost next to nothing, right? A handwritten card to somebody when they leave your open house with a business card in it. Another impression. And these things are very low cost. A door knock to all the neighbors to say, hey, just come up to my open house and tell me what you think. Am I priced right? Do you like the house? What can you tell me about the neighborhood? Those door knocks are impressions because very few people want a door knock. And it's not a buy or sell conversation. It's a come up and add value to me conversation. Then when they're there, I get to give them a flyer. I get to give them a business card. They get to see my sign. They get to see me audition, so on and so forth. So really, it was this thing we called Stain the Brain. Was the campaign for open houses, which is you drive by. I had a team, and it was 12 signs in your trunk, 12 signs out. No matter what, didn't matter where the house was. You had to put 12 signs out in the neighborhood to lead people to your open house. Then they saw your yard sign. Then they got a flyer. Then they got a business card. Then they got a handwritten card with a business card. Then they got an email, a follow-up call. If you add up all of those touches, they're probably like $20. Like, it's not that expensive for all of those touches to create that reticular activator. Then what I did is I created a team. First it was 1, then it was 9. Okay. My team was 9 agents, and we all did the same exact thing. Was 12 signs in, 12 signs out, flyers, business cards, handwritten cards. So we all had to do them on the same time and the same day every weekend. And it was in a 3,000 home community. So you basically saw 108 signs, you got 9 business cards, you got, right? And so this Stain the Brain campaign really quickly, with 6 months of consistency, made it look like we were the only team brand in the neighborhood. And then what I did is I scaled it at the brokerage level, and we were having 50, 60 open houses a weekend, 12 signs in, 12 signs out, social media, cards, et cetera, and it really helped build the brand. So you can do it as a single agent. You got to be really consistent. And you can do it as a team, and it's really what helped build the brand.
Ugh, Stain the Brain. Like, I've never heard that before, and that is freaking awesome. Like, get in that brain and stay there forever. Also, I think it's cool that you're doing all of the things that I know, because I talk to agents all the time, that people just discount. They just discount the putting out the signs. They'll just put out a few signs and they'll be like, I only talked to one person for 5 minutes. Like, do I really want to write a card? And like, it's just, but it's all of these little consistent touches. And the fact that none of those things between the signs, the yard sign, flyer, business card, email, follow-up call, all of those are like classic real estate techniques. And then you layered them and do them every single time. And wow, it works. Shocking.
I actually, it's leveraging the other marketing. So when I got to where I had some additional ad spend and I started doing full page ads in the local newspaper, I would go take a stack of like 3 to 5 of them, and I would lay them out in the house so that when people came into the open houses, they'd be like, oh, that's you. I got the newspaper. So it was like, I never just let the newspaper be the newspaper. I never let the direct mail, like my direct mail. So for direct mail marketing, what I did is it was never about lead gen. It was about more Stain the Brain. And it was a campaign that was a very big optical image of something that would like stick in, you'd be like, so when I would come to your house and knock on your door to invite you to my open house, I would say, hey, I sent you a postcard that had like a checkmate chess piece on it and said 5 moves ahead. Did you get that? And like 50%, 40% would say, oh yeah, I did. So I would use the direct mail as the lead into the conversation that again then I would leave them a business card. Then they would come. So it was like, I never let any one piece of marketing just do its own job. It was like, I would mail you a card, bring up the card. You would come to the open house, see the newspaper, go back to your house, see the newspaper. So it was just this, like you said, layered approach that unfortunately you just kind of couldn't get away from me.
So, okay. And this is a perfect segue into kind of like my next question, which is, because in the beginning we kicked off with marketing for listings, and now I want to dive into the marketing for your business, which it sounds like you guys are crushing open houses with that layered technique. You've also mentioned full page ad in a newspaper. You mentioned direct mail. So can you kind of walk us through the things that you're doing, the things that have worked really well, especially now, like 2024, what is working? What are you loving? What are you not?
Yeah, that Stay in the Brain campaign that I just mentioned to you, I mean, it was what blew the business up, right? And it took 2 years of doing that really every weekend. I mean, it was highly coordinated. And what I would say is, for anyone who just listened that's kind of just getting started, or like, hey, I've got my first batch of resources money to be able to do this, just start with those really small, like a small direct mail campaign of maybe 100 surrounding houses, flyers from the office. They can be on B-grade paper. By the way, I do believe in a really, really good business card, like thick cardstock, maybe, raised lettering, gloss, just people feel it and it means something. But like in your signs, by the way, I don't put my phone number on open house signs. You're driving too fast. No one's going to get your phone number. Make your name really big. Save the phone number for the yard sign. So like really just some of these kind of meticulous. But the newspaper ads and the billboards and the Zillows and that stuff, that came later when I had resources, right? So you can do that layered approach before you get there. But as it just kept building and scaling on itself, that 3,000 home target market, I mean, the billboard was on the corner of that target market square. I got all the shopping carts like at the Beehive shopping market in that 3,000 home square. So you can just kind of add on. And at some point, all of that kind of compounds on itself. However, one thing that I talk about marketing is marketing does not do the work. Marketing just gets people to you. That's all that it does. And then you've got to work on your skill, your presentation, your communication skills, your value proposition, your market knowledge, all of that to be able to get, people ready to actually want to do business with you. It doesn't just make business unto itself. And furthermore, somewhere between your presentation and the actual marketing medium, you need to get out and beat the street. Like you need to be at, the birthdays, the bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, the weddings, you got to go out and you got to network and meet people and find unique and creative ways to not be an antagonistic real estate agent and create organic conversations in the marketplace. And that becomes a bridge to the presentation. And then you get to present. Today in 2024, that marketing worked. It worked. And I'm fortunate now to not have to do as much of that. It's really about curating a database now. And I'm back to cold prospecting because the market itself is slow and different. And a lot of my friends, the people I sold homes to, are locked into 2.5% and 3% interest rates. They're not going anywhere. And so I've got to go find new people who need to transact. And that's the good old boots on the ground. What we're doing is actually, I'm personally cold calling and my business partner, Adam, is door knocking, like literally just old school prospecting.
And you are still personally cold calling and door knocking in those luxury neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm trying to imagine that because the only door knocking, that I've seen, and this is back when I was first getting started, I sold literally $40,000 houses. So it's a distressed property in a low price point market to investors. So my idea of door knocking, it's literally a shack. But I'm trying to envision, I'm guessing. So I guess with that, any tips on this, like old school, curating this cold market with, I don't know, luxury market, or what's doing well with you on cold calling or door knocking in these neighborhoods?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to highlight like your tone and your body language when you're talking about envisioning door knocking in, a luxury market. For everyone listening, I want you guys to hear me really, really carefully. When I said that my predominant way of generating business before I did the Stay in Your Brain campaign was door knocking a luxury market, one of my very successful luxury competitors and now friends said to me, Brian, God bless you. I've lived in that market for, 20 years. And if I went door knocking, I'd have to put a brown bag on my head. Okay. And that was her being like, almost like that's embarrassing. And like, there's no way I could let my friends see me like, because she knew, she was very well networked in the neighborhood and progressive dinner parties and all the fun stuff. Right. So she was like, no way. Like, could I do that? And for me, I remember in my head going, oh my God, this is going to be fucking easy. Like literally, like, cause it was just like my compare, even for you who's a pro, you're like, I just really like, you do that, and I'm like, if you're listening and your fellow colleagues or competitors are like, that doesn't work, do it. That's because believe me, there's 20,000 1,000 people trying to tackle my luxury market by doing it a polished, and social media based way. Dress really nice, do a really good social media post, do an expensive ad in the newspaper and wait for someone to call. Great. That seat's taken. People want to go out and beat the street. No one wants to do it, especially in luxury. So what are some of the strategies we do? One of ours is we work with luxury builders that are looking for scrapes or remodel opportunities. So no different than the beater house. In our market, a really good flat square lot is $2.5 million just for the dirt. Okay. So for us, there's still really, really good fee opportunities for us to be able to go out and find those properties that could be scrapes or remodels for builders. And then the beautiful part about that is that we get to build ourselves in on the back end as the listing on the finished product. So we get, the prospective buy side commission or fee on the front end. And then we get, an opportunity to list that property and market ourselves on the back end. And we get to market ourselves in the middle. Hey, help the, builder find a great deal on this property. Can't wait to show you the finished product. We specialize in all things market. Here you go. And so in terms of door knocking, it's really like, it's very selective. That's the first thing is we're not going door to door. It's like we've identified really great sites for new builds. And so it's like, hey, my name's Brian. We've been doing research in the neighborhood. Either me or a client are looking to purchase a property like yours. Are you interested in selling? Pretty simple. And if they're like, no, get off the, they don't, by the way, nobody ever does. That's why I can't even say it. It's usually like, no, I'm not interested right now, but thanks for stopping by. Like that's the worst thing ever. Right. Be professional and all that good stuff, but that's pretty simple. And then on the cold call stuff, it's the same thing. On cold calling though, most people don't want to be bothered. We're trained to get off the phone. And so it does require some question asking skill to be able to keep people on the phone. Like, hey, before you go, quick question. Do you know anyone in the neighborhood who might want to be? I see your neighbor could be one that we're interested in. Do you know your neighbor very well? Like just asking questions like that to keep them on the phone. That it's like, are you sure? Hey, real quick. I want you to know a cash offer on your house might be like X. Are you sure you wouldn't want to talk about it? So we have to do some of that to keep them on the phone, but it really is pretty casual. And the worst thing that's going to happen on the phones is you get hung up on.
With the door knocking, when they're like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. Thanks for stopping by. Do you do any of that? Hey, real quick, like, are you leaving them with anything or any sort of reason to follow up? Or what does that look like at the end? Yeah,
definitely. My thing is, I am a brokerage owner. Most of the area that I do work in, I live in. So it's like, hey, I'm a resident here. I'm your neighbor. I live up the street. I'm just out here doing what anyone would do. Let me give you my card. Whether you want to buy or sell a house or you want to sell your house or anything, if you just need a resource in the marketplace, just hang on to my number and give me a call anytime. I just want to be an ambassador of the neighborhood. That's it. And then I'm leaving them my card. And my hope is that I've been kind enough, nice enough. I'm just out doing a professional job that if they do come across somebody, a friend who mentioned like, this guy stopped by my house the other day. Believe me, I've had plenty of those in my career.
Yeah, I like the way that you said it too, your tonality with like, basically, hey, if you just need a resource or whatever, you weren't like, I'm here to help you buy, sell, or invest. With that, there's this desperation, or maybe it's even like a aggression almost that I've heard frequently. But it's really nice when you're very nonchalant because it feels like, oh, I actually might call him if I need him.
Totally. By the way, I'm the same way at open houses. Going back to the person that's like one person came through, should I follow up? The biggest one's nosy neighbors. And when I decided to work a geography. So think about the value of nosy neighbors if you're working a geography. So like, look, if you guys have heard the book Raving Fans, right? Like if I could send every person I met at an open house, the next door neighbor who bought a week ago, as an agent, you're like, that's not an opportunity. They bought a week ago. I'm not going to be able to make a commission off of them. Like if that's your language, you're doomed. In my opinion, you're doomed. You have a ceiling for sure. You're only going to be able to make a certain amount of money because it's so obnoxiously transactional. We are in a transactional business. So this whole relational transactional thing, it sounds kitschy to say relational. Yes, we build relationships, but look, the only way we get paid is to do transactions, right? So, long tail, it's relationships. But if I'm auditioning for Raving Fans, that's the goal of an open house. And I get one person through the door who lives in that neighborhood. And I'm able to have them go away going, God, that was a nice person. He's very helpful. He's very knowledgeable. At minimum, what if they just tell my seller when they have a glass of wine with them next week, like, man, I met Brian. Like, you guys picked well. He's a great guy. Like, even just solidifying my relationship with my current seller. Every opportunity to be good or be better in this business or in the world is going to afford you more opportunity later. It's a very long game. But my dad once said to me, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to kill it. Or he used to say it takes 20 attaboys for one oh shit was another one of his. And it's this thing of like, we just got to keep getting attaboys any way we can. With neighbors, it's like, hey, I just moved in. This happens way more than you think. Just bought a house in the neighborhood. It was kind of a frustrating transaction process. By the way, the same for everybody. And, once we moved in, we realized there were some things wrong with the house. I'm like, oh, really? Like, did your agent refer you anybody? And they're like, yeah, just not been super responsive. Ever since the deal closed, really haven't heard from them very much. It's like very common. No problem. Why don't you give me your number? I'll send you a painter and an electrician that, can help you out with the challenges that you've had with the house. Like all of a sudden I've done something that the person they just worked with that got paid isn't helping them with. The law of reciprocity, go research the law of reciprocity. It's a law in the world that says whatever you give, people feel obliged to want to give back. So this is to me, the most important method of marketing and prospecting that you can do in real estate is just making sure you're being very present and mindful about every opportunity. The rest will take care of itself.
One more question on this. Do you tie any of these connections to socials? Like, because you just had the phone number and, hey, I'll send you that. But are you ever like, hey, I'd love to keep in touch. What's your Instagram? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I love it. No, I don't. And I just, for me, I'm on Instagram. I've got, videographer full time and I got a social media manager and, I'm doing as much as I can there. I think it's like I just haven't committed to the value of social. If I'm being honest, I think that's the best way to put it. Certainly don't want to claim I'm 46, which makes me like, just outside that it's like everyday life. Social media is like what you do everything on, but I clearly understand the value of it. I just haven't committed to it the way that I need to commit to it. I definitely think you should. And I have agents at the brokerage who their exclusive marketing channel for their clients is social media and kill it. I mean, absolutely kill it. So no, I could stand to be better there.
Okay. Which by the way, is probably one of the reasons why you're so strong at the classic, the door knocking and all of that stuff is because you're allocating your resources, elsewhere. And that's okay. And I feel like, I know everything works if you work, so.
100%. Yeah.
So when it comes to marketing, is there anything that we didn't cover that you think is important for listeners to know?
No, I just can't help but reiterate, like, as boring as it sounds, replay this yelling I'm doing at you and listen to the small things, the smallest things I said. Right? The duplication of marketing effort, using this thing for this thing and making sure there's a handwritten card and you have a business card inside and making sure everybody gets one of those and everybody gets a follow-up call and like everybody gets an email. By the way, email marketing is I got one other for personal marketing, but email marketing, the best thing I can share with you with email marketing is share resources. So if you're going to email someone and follow up, be like, hey, when I met you at the open house, you mentioned you needed a good car dealer. My friend works at such and such, like give them something, right? It makes the email worth more than just following up with you to see if you're still in the market. How did that sound? It's like flat and you're only focused on what you get, not what you give. Go Givers is another great book. Like give first, right? Give first and it will come back. But in emails, give something every time. And then the other is networking. But when I say networking, I mean like committed, like you're going to find someone to go on a date with networking, right? And what I used to do is I would go to networking events. There are actual networking events. The ones that you can go on Facebook is a great way. Go to Facebook groups and look up networking events. They can be business to business, B2B networking. They can be real estate networking. They can, whatever they might be. And I would put 10 business cards in a little business card holder. And I couldn't leave until I had 10 new business cards in there. That was the game. And then when I went home, what I did is I introduced 2 people. So I would take the 10 business cards out and I would go, these 2 businesses can add value to each other. So I would go, hey, it's great to meet you, Shelby. Just want to say, if there's anything that I can ever do to help out, let me know. In the meantime, I want to introduce you to Jason. Jason is a videographer that could come help shoot, curated video content for your podcast. And then Jason, Shelby runs a podcast. Maybe you guys can link up sometime. And whether anything comes of it or not, again, it was just like, I've taken two people and done what I can to add value to them, put them in my database as a newsletter follow-up or, a networking follow-up or a client appreciation event or something like that. And again, this over time creates a very large referral network based on the law of reciprocity. So that'd probably be the last thing I would share with you.
All the layers, Brian. You got all the layers.
All the layers. Yeah.
Okay, so there's people listening right now. They think you're awesome. They want more from you in whatever way they can. So where can they find you? Do you want people to reach out? Or are you like, no, I don't want to talk to anyone? What do you want them to do?
Of course I want people to reach out. No, what I mean by that is like, I am real time in a transition in my life. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be selling real estate. I want to be, I think real estate is the hardest business. I've started a lot of businesses, 8 or 9 businesses, not including investment strategy businesses and investments in things outside of real estate. I think real estate's the hardest business I've ever been in, ever, because of the saturation and the competition, right? That first thing that you said, which was that, a lot of times sellers think you just take photos and put it on the MLS. There's a reason for that. And it's because most do, but then there's us that don't. And because of that, it makes it very difficult, right? And so there's this thing for me where I actually want to be, a role model, for lack of a better description, for people who went and made their dreams come true, bought their dream home, got to travel the way they wanted, set up their investment accounts if they want to, learn their entrepreneurial moxie, and then go do what they're really supposed to do in the world. Because this business can be a thankless and very stressful job that can leave collateral damage. And so for me, I'm really embarking on a space right now of, I don't know, I'm going to do business the way I only want to do business and work with only who I want to work with. And then really I'm going to become, mentor, coach, keynote public speaker, and really helping people, formulate their next vision for themselves and their lives and have the gumption to walk away if they want, instead of being a slave to it. So yes, I want to help. You can find me on social media. Pretty much it's Brian, Brian, I with an I, okay? Not Ryan, okay? It's Brian. Brian C, middle initial C for Christopher North. Brian C North. My handles are synonymous across every social platform. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. I don't know if you're going to pin anything on my account. I've never been on it, but it is that. YouTube, all of those. And DM me, and I answer DMs. It's nobody else does. It's me talking to you. So if you have any questions, jump in there and DM me, and I'll be glad to help out.
Perfect. Love it. And guys, you know that all of his links will also be in the show notes for you to click and slide into his DMs that way. And if you want to hang out with me and the owner of the show, we are The Shelby Show and Aaron Amuchastegui on the gram. We also are the ones who answer all of our things. So would love to hear from you. And otherwise, guys, that is all we have for today. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show. And Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.